Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hanuman Healing Hour. My name is Jaitra. I'm your host. I hope everyone has had a good week. We are starting to kind of put out more content, more episodes, trying to get that one-a-week thing going. Today, I have a really special guest. Normally, we don't get really too political on the show, but I do feel moved kind of to do a little bit. This lady I found her on TikTok. I didn't necessarily find her, but she is mostly on TikTok. She's on other social medias, which we'll plug at the end of the show. Really, I found a video of her, and she was very adamant and she stuck up for women's rights. And I think that's something that's important for our show to demonstrate, especially the fact that we talk a lot about the masculine and feminine, about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I think we've had a few feminine energy guests here lately, and I think continuing with some of that is a very beautiful thing. So without further ado, Daria Rizzelli. How are you?
Like we're talking about before, it's like a pseudonym, but like everyone around kind of knows, like in my hometown, they know what my real name is, but it's unspoken rule. Daria Rizzelli. But yeah. So I am an amateur content creator. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I've started speaking up about like women's rights, and I've just been like very loud the past year or two, just because you know, it's actually been like a prevalent theme in my life, with especially because fascism is like a big scary word. And I have my grandparents and my parents who came from Italy, in southern Italy, and what we know about them is from, World War II, southern Italy. They were trying to ethnically cleanse them. And my grandfather, he was like a teenager, 14, 15 years old, and blonde haired, blue eyed typically, and he was Christian, right?
Yeah.
So, but he encountered Nazis, and they were like not very kind to him, and they got into like some sort of scuffle. And so that was weird. He ended up like literally running on foot to my grandmother's next town over to warn her that they were coming. So, they've been dealing with that. And then it's crazy because, like, we typically think, oh, like, if you're white and you're Christian, like, the Nazis are going to leave you alone. But, yeah, as we've seen, they're kind of like being bullies. And, if you don't fit a certain stereotype, it could get very dangerous very quickly. And I think this is just like one thing that I really want people to understand. Especially, it's crazy how there's so many people in my hometown who, I'm one of the first people who, like, my parents are from Italy, but like, so I'm first generation Italian American. But they have grandparents who came over here from Italy, but they have a different story because, like their grandparents came over, they had to hide their Italian heritage. So comparing, like, we have different experiences. I think they're just so far removed from that, and they forget that, like, oh my God, like our grandparents actually like struggled with this, whereas for me it's like right here. So
right.
Yeah. So and it's crazy because, like, just seeing people vote against their like best interest, and they have, like, we have family, we, like, just I can't deal.
It's one thing, especially I understand, because back in the day, for people who aren't too aware of history, even Italian people were very much, like, Irish people were persecuted. Italian people, they were very persecuted, even in like big cities in New York, things like that. They used to have a whole bunch of different slurs for yours and my people. And I also have native in me, and I can only imagine the combinations nowadays, how hated people would be.
Oh yes. And it's crazy because, like, for perspective, my grandfather is 96 years old. I want to say he was born in 1928.
Oh, wow.
And yes, so I was born in 1990. Well,
Yeah.
in like 1890, they were, lynching Italian people here in the
Yeah.
US. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's just crazy to conceptualize.
Yeah. I mean, even I'd say your grandfather would probably have been about 20 years old. That's when they had the Japanese internment camps.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So they during World War II, I don't know if people know, but they literally had concentration camps for people of Asian descent.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, there's still so much stuff that even I'm learning about World War II and World War One, if I'm being honest with you, and will
Yeah.
continue learning about
Yeah.
because how much of it was kept under wraps for so long before
Oh
the
yeah.
internet, and
Oh yeah.
and we have people alive that can tell you stories that they've tried
Yeah.
to keep under wraps, and I'm, you know,
Yeah. And there's still people alive today that say the Holocaust didn't happen, and
they're
I
Holocaust
myself,
deniers.
yeah,
Yep.
I myself have met people with the tattoos on their arms and the tears in their eyes. Like, can't tell me it didn't happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, um, so with that being said, what do you think one of your biggest struggles? And you said you kind of grew up in the technology age, but what do you think one of your biggest struggles have been growing up? You know, maybe even getting into this space, and kind of how did you overcome it?
I mean, a lot of my content creation journey actually I was so on the fence with about this because being perceived, I had an issue with it. I had imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
A part of it is honestly, this is like a skill that like you have to develop. And like the past couple of years, like I've made some very cringy stuff, and it was awful. But and I'll continue. I always churn out content, and then I'm
Yeah.
going back and deleting stuff. It's part of my creative process, though. Like I
Right.
don't regret it. It's because I'm also an artist, so it's like, do I
Hmm.
regret every like doodle I made? It's just like no,
Oh
because
yeah.
in some
Yeah.
way that helped like come. You know what I'm trying to say? It helped the
Yeah.
bigger
You
picture.
learned. Yeah, you
Yeah.
learned something from it, whether it was like an editing technique
Yes.
or
Yep.
I really don't like that sound or whatever it
Mhm.
is. You learn something from it. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
get.
And then like it's funny because like whenever I started doing this, like so many of my friends, like of course they were like laughing at me and they weren't liking my stuff, and I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I was getting all upset about, but also there was a level up in me that I needed to do, and I think in a way like
Hmm.
I could sense that, and so could the people around me. So it's like being comfortable talking to people. Like I in
Right.
2000 and I want to say like maybe 17 or 18, like I had videos that would go viral, but and so like I would enjoy it, but like also at the same time, like the thought of everybody like looking at me, I could not stomach. But like now that I'm older and like just
Yeah.
had more experience, it's like I'm not like perfect. I still have my moments where it's like, oh, why were they mean? Like, I'm not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I can handle it better. I'm like, oh, whatever, jerk. But like, I'm not
Yeah.
like, it's not gonna ruin my day. I'm not gonna delete my account because like people were mean to me. Whereas like years ago, I would. But that's because
Yeah.
like I would put silly videos online, and it's true, you don't know what videos are gonna go viral, and then it's
Right.
like, oh, oopsies, only I was only feeling good for those 5 minutes. I'm actually back
Yeah.
to being insecure. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's so good though to be where I am now. And I tell
Yeah.
everybody I'm begging my friends around me to do content creation
Right.
because it does something for me. Like I feel like now I can express myself in a way I wasn't able to before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. It's interesting that you mentioned that way because I have another social media friend that is kind of getting into the space, and they messaged me the other day asking how I take when people give me negative comments or when some um, you know very off the wall Christian person
Yeah.
says I'm going to hell or whatever it is. One thing in my way of spiritual thinking and like what I teach and the people that come to me for it, one thing I tell them is you very easily can do this.
Yes, yes.
That's it. And the whole thing is gone. You know what I mean? Like, or you can close the laptop. The whole
Hmm.
thing is gone. The people on here are not real. The birds are not real. Right? So what I tell them basically is don't take it so personally, right? If
No.
you're here to
Mm-mm.
be a creator, if you're here to create something that you want to give that 50 years from now somebody is going to maybe look at,
Hmm.
put your energy in putting that out in a way that is going to benefit the person that's looking at it. And if
Hmm.
there's somebody that doesn't like it, or if there's somebody that goes, you shouldn't be Hindu and you should be a Christian, and if you're not, blah blah blah, that, you know what I mean, that's their own stuff. That's, you know,
Yeah.
so it, and honestly, one thing that creating content has helped me with is, and I'm not sure if you're aware or understand the chakra systems, right? But the
Hmm.
throat chakra, being able to use your voice in a way that represents you, right? Which we'll kind of get into a little bit with the female Devine Feminine. One thing that content creation has helped me with is being able to do that, right? Being able to, in a conversation, put my thoughts in my head out into the conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As opposed, because I'm a little autistic, so sometimes if I'm in a conversation, I just want to sit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes I agree. Sometimes I mean, I went to school for psychology. I believe
Mhm.
I may have um ADHD, but also like
Okay.
today I just had like a revelation. Like I struggle with PCOS and that makes me like crazy hormonal and act like I have
Mm.
cyclothymia, which is similar to mimicking bipolar 2. So like
Okay.
rapid fluctuations of like your mood and stuff like I and
Back
it's
in one
all
extreme
month
to another.
long.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
But honestly, the older I've gotten way better about it and just like
Yeah.
also managing like coping skills and
Mhm.
growing up, just figuring out, you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So, but it made something click in me like, oh my God, like I've always been like, oh my God, why am I so moody? So, number one,
Mhm.
psychology did teach me like first of all, like if you're experiencing stuff like that, like see if there's any like biological reason most of the
Right.
time.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
believe a lot of us can. And I was briefly a CNA last year because I dropped out of my biomedical science master's program because I thought I was going to be like a doctor, or psychiatrist, or something.
Right. Right.
But before I did that, I was like, okay, let me see if I want to actually do the medical field. So then I go
Mhm.
last year, and I'm like briefly a CNA or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't even like it because I'm a small person, and they don't tell you that like this is a physical labor job.
It's very
And
physical.
I
Yeah.
nobody ever had the heart. Like they saw me going to school and stuff to like pull me aside and be like, "Hey, girl, I love you," but like, so you know, it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. It's funny. I
You're
still
not
have
going to be
people.
able to lift Dave off the bed.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
still
Yeah.
have people pressuring me, and they're like, "Why aren't you?" I'm like, no, "I'm not doing that." First of all, and
Yeah.
plus, like, whenever you deal with a lot of psychiatric patients,
You
unfortunately,
do.
you know, you
Yeah.
don't know.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I actually, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I wasn't a certified CNA, but I was in a position of a
Yes,
caretaker,
exactly.
right?
Same.
So,
I think that was it because I had to get to the point where it's like, oh, do I really want to like put the
mhm.
effort into like study for this? And but I
Yeah.
just say CNA because it's just easier. But
Yeah,
same.
people
Yeah.
understand what it is. Yeah, a caretaker is basically, for the audience, is basically a CNA. There's a few things you can't do, but for the
Yeah.
most part, you are the one going in and helping with changing and bathroom use and
Yes.
the whole spiel of helping elderly people. And don't get me wrong, for those who do that and do that as a career, you guys are awesome because it's
Awesome.
not something that
It
I
takes a type.
could do. Yeah. Oh, and my partner is one of them. She's at the moment she's not licensed, but she has been, and she's actually at a care facility at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
even she will say it takes a type. You gotta have a heart to do it.
And also, not only that, but like that, it just wasn't about me. It was also about like the
Hmm.
healthcare system. Like I
Hmm.
wanted to help people,
Oh yeah.
and but because I couldn't physically help them, I would have to call other people. Number one,
Hmm.
we were already short staffed. Like that's
Yeah.
how bad things were. It's like,
Oh yeah.
in a weird way that it's kind of like, oh, well, we know that she can't do this physically, but we need a
Hmm.
body. Like that's how
Yeah.
bad it was that I
Oh
think
yeah.
that actually is what it was,
Yeah.
instead of
And
actually seeing who can
that's
capably
everywhere.
do the job.
That's
Yeah.
everywhere. That whole part of the system, and it's probably larger. I just only saw a micro, a macro, but it is probably the majority of the medical system. They want
Yeah.
bodies because they don't have people. Because
Nope.
unfortunately, they don't get paid crap. You know what I
Nope.
mean?
I mean, they were only trying to pay us like I want to say like $9, $10 per hour, and it simply was not worth it. And I mean, you
Yep.
had people getting upset at you, and it's like
Hmm.
getting pulled
And
in
God
nine
bless
different
them.
directions.
Yeah, they're have dementia or Alzheimer's, and
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing. It's
No,
definitely
and
not
then
an easy
also
thing.
I think in a weird way, like also though, the psychology was kind of for me because like I
Hmm.
grew up I have PTSD. So
Yeah.
just I grew up with like childhood trauma, and I
Hmm.
grew up in a family we had domestic violence, and just mental abuse, all these things, which also contributed to me having a fear of being perceived, because it's like whenever the people that you love kind of blur the lines between like love and hate and disrespect,
Yeah.
and what do you do
Oh yeah.
about that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually my story is very similar. I'm working on a book at the moment to kind of
Mm,
describe that and lay that
yeah,
out. I'm calling it From Devastation to Grace. So
that's
it's a
great.
work in progress, but yeah, definitely completely understand that. Well,
I
where
minored in creative writing, so that's so crazy, like that you like to
I'll
write
be
too.
I'll be needing
Yeah.
an editor at some point. So,
Awesome. I
um,
think honestly, just at like some point, like a lot of us write because like when we are younger and we're going through that
mhm,
trauma, and we're trying to, we can't say out loud exactly what we think, right? Or we're just like
right,
overthinking and internalizing it. So that was actually a start for me. I started like
yeah.
journaling, and I don't
I
know if you're
started
familiar
with
with Live Journal.
I started with poetry, so I
Oh,
100%
yeah.
understand. So where do you kind of see yourself heading in like the next 5 years?
I just want to keep creating. Like,
Yeah,
I have so many things I want to do. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I have a ukulele behind me, and then, like, I want to learn guitar. I want to learn
yeah,
banjo. I like to sing. I like to make music. I'm
hmm
so, like, ADHD in this way. Like, I love to paint, like, all the art forms. Like, I was telling
yeah,
myself, I'm like, I'm going to weave. Like, I don't settle for any. I've dated people before. They're like, "What is wrong with you? Like, you need to focus on one thing." And I'm like, "No, sorry, I'm not hearing it."
oh yeah,
So I'm just one of those people where I'm gonna give it a good shot, and usually it
hmm
works out. And I just
hmm
I can't stand whenever I tried. I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," and then somebody is like, looking at me. It's like, why you gotta rain on my parade, dude? Like, and a lot of
yeah, oh
people
yeah,
do, honestly. But
yeah,
it goes back to that projection. It's like whenever they have to go back to this, and they
yeah,
have to, they see me like leveling up with content creation and being able to talk to people, and in their mind they're
hmm
thinking, oh my god, I'm so socially awkward, I could never do that. But I'm over
right,
here telling them that used to be me.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. You're
yeah,
gonna
and I can't. Like, I think sometimes it's just people come up with excuses.
oh, very much
Um,
so, very much so.
and I think that's the point in my life where I'm getting to, where it's like I want to see you do it.
Right.
So yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like put your money where your mouth is. Like I'm not against criticism, but I do have to kind of value where that criticism is coming from, if it's
Of
valid.
course.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get snippy. Like, it takes a lot, I guess, to take me out of character before I
Hmm.
hit that breaking point, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I'm honestly I'd say less than a year ago, even doing this was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
Just getting on and having a conversation, like I could get on and read a whole book to the internet, right? But sitting and having a back and forth conversation, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And one thing that really, really helped me was just to realize I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to feel a little weird about it, and then it's
Do it
over.
scared.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it'll be over. The nervousness will go away at some point, and
Yeah. And it is. And it just, it feels so good. Like in the past, like week or two, like it's, you can feel yourself leveling up. I don't know how else to explain it, but like I'll make videos and I'll be like, oh, that was a banger, or like, oh, that wasn't a
yeah,
banger. But for the
yeah.
most part, but also sometimes there are instances where it's like, oh, this algorithm's being a hater today.
Oh
So,
yeah,
but also
oh yeah,
to make sure that you don't let that stop you and you just keep trying. And
right.
that's where I'm at. I mean, so many people admire content creators whenever they're like big and everybody's like standing them, but I
Mhm.
don't really know very many people that I've been following from the very beginning to see them go from like awkward to turtle to like a mega influencer, you know?
Yeah. And I
So,
mean, I think a lot of it has to do with what you're wanting out of it, right? Like, don't get me
mm-hmm.
wrong. At a
And
certain
you
point,
figure it
the
out as you
money
go
is
too.
nice. Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, if you're in it just for the money,
Mm-mm, not
it's
gonna work.
not gonna, you know what I mean? It's not gonna really give you the
I
satisfaction
perform for
you're
free
looking
all
for.
the time. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes. With everything kind of going on right now, how do you or what advice do you think you would maybe give to someone, especially of the female persuasion, that would give them some hope, would be able to, especially with the way the United States is, the fact that we have the elections coming up, I'm really hoping the small possibility that it's not going to be the best for women, you know what I mean? What kind of
Yeah.
hope would you give to someone if they asked, you know, what do you think of what's going on, type of thing?
Since we talked about it earlier, how like my grandmother, how she experienced fascism, and every day I'm deconstructing that still, even though
Yeah,
she's passed away. Like, just she had a lot of internalized misogyny that she needed to unpack that I don't think a lot of women
right.
are doing, and just like religion, like we grew up Roman Catholic, and but like a lot of, now that I'm older, I'm having like spirituality and like religion, I guess, on my own terms. So it's like,
Yeah,
just, I don't
yeah,
have to go to church, and I don't, I can find a spiritual meaning, but it's not like, I'll give you a simple example. It's like, because my grandmother was like modest, because back then, those times, she'd tell me, she's like, oh, well, don't wear makeup. And
right,
because only whores do that. And so
right.
like in my head, I'm like, that's a very crazy conclusion to come to, because like I'm a teenage girl. I just want to like wear my makeup and stuff, and like
Yeah,
be a baddie, you know.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah,
grandma
yeah,
wasn't having it.
yeah.
But I mean, so there was a degree where you had to like start disappointing your parents and grandparents and be like, okay, well, like
Yeah,
self-expression. So
yeah.
I'll just, I that was part of it, and also just realizing like, I joke, I said I had diet fascism at home growing up. So because
Just
yeah, because I got micromanaged so much, and just all I
right.
realized is just like nobody knows how to like mind their own business. So that's literally the biggest takeaway, is like, ask like, how's like something like involving you, I guess, like why should it bother you, first of all?
Hmm.
um Especially to women, like I guess like my biggest thing to say to women, I have a couple things honestly, like just women that may vote conservative, I kind of want them to question why. Because whenever you think about it,
Right.
like everything that women have today has been built upon progress and progressives.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
personally don't believe that the conservatives are like over here fighting for like women's rights or trans rights, LGBTQIA plus. Like, and one of the things that people tell me, they're like, they say it's a gotcha. They're like, oh, well, you know that the party's switched, right? And it's like, I don't care what the
Yeah,
label is. The
yeah.
it's all the core values. Seeing people as
Right.
human beings whenever they're outcast to you. Like
Yeah.
I can't believe where people come up with their arguments sometimes. It's that
Yeah.
it's easy to poke holes into their argument. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of why it's gotten easier for me, like just using logic. And it's like a lot of people, they're afraid of having the tense conversations, especially as we
Mhm.
do see like with men and women who are married. This could be like a dividing election because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
getting serious. It's like, oh my God, like what is going to happen to us? And so it is important to take it that seriously, I think.
Yeah.
One, so the women should be surrounding themselves with just good. So like good men in their lives, good friends, good
Hmm.
everything. Like just people that actually support you and see you as a
Hmm.
person and like you. And another thing is just also knowing when you're not right and you need to learn more information. Like one of the biggest things
Hmm.
is like we got lawmakers that don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is. Why are
Yeah.
they allowed to like say this stuff whenever like it takes people years and years and years of school and residencies to even do this stuff? Like how dare you?
Right.
You know, like so
Right.
I think we've just gotten to the point where people are like it's anti-intellectual and pseudo-intellectual in a
Mhm.
way, and I can't stand it. So trying to
Yeah.
figure out like what's real, what's misinformation. And I mean, I guess whatever happens happens.
Hmm.
So in a weird way, I'm not trying to say like it is what it is, but like whatever whenever we get there, I guess we'll know what more to expect. So we're
Right.
preparing for the worst. I voted for Kamala Harris. My boyfriend voted for
Me
Kamala
too.
Harris. I'm proud of him because he used to be conservative when I met him. He did his own work and just us having conversations, which also women should be doing with people they're dating or
Hmm.
even around them. You never know.
Yeah.
And he made the switch, and I think it's because I didn't demonize him from the jump. It's so like if whenever you're talking to somebody, like don't be like, oh yeah, you're wrong, I'm right. Like that's not gonna convince somebody of
Right.
your point. And so like I
Yeah.
do try to find like common ground. And so to some people,
Hmm.
they like to argue and they're like, oh, you're a centrist, but it's like not really, dude. I'm very left, but also I recognize that like Kamala Harris is more center than I want her to be. But
Right.
that's where we are right now. It's about the choices that you have. And it's like, okay, do we want a moderate or do we want full on fascism?
Right.
Because those are two different
That's
things.
the
And
two choices. Yeah.
I can't believe that there are still people that are like, oh, well, I'm not gonna vote for Kamala Harris because genocide. Listen, you think it sucks over there? It's about to suck over here too if you don't do
Yeah.
something, dude. Like get it
Yeah.
together. Like and
Yeah.
at that point it's not even about like having your hands clean. Kind of sorta. It is about having like oh it's like oh it's not my problem. That's what that
Hmm.
is. Cuz
Oh yeah.
we're none of us are innocent in all of this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, we are the ones that consume the products that make the things that are bad
Our
happening over
phones.
there. Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we as Americans have lived such a cushy life for decades to
Mhm.
where the rest of the world has now fallen into not only conflict but poverty, degradation, because of the way we thought we could live our lives, right?
Yeah.
The consumption, the greed, the all of it. And to be honest with you, and I've said it a little bit on my podcast before. In my early 20s, I was a conservative too,
Yeah,
and
okay.
I am now what would be described as a far left anarchist, right?
Mhm.
And that's in my ideas. In my
Yes.
practicality, I 100% agree with you. It's either we go down the middle, kind of a little bit to the left, or we don't have an opportunity to even have the option next time. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So and
And
it's
plus, they did blind studies, and I guess we'll have to see. A lot of people preferred Kamala Harris's policies if they
yeah,
didn't know,
yeah,
but if they didn't tell the name, like they literally liked
yeah,
hers more than his. So it's
yeah.
kind of like I wish
No,
people would understand that part because at the end of the day, it should be about the policy.
it should be. It really should be about what the person that is trying to get our vote is wanting to do for us, right? Because it's that's the whole reason we vote, right? Is for us
Mm-hmm.
to have representation. And one thing that I do say that at a certain point I'm hoping the United States will change is both representatives at this current moment are not the best for the people, right?
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, the way that they have their game rigged, this is the choice that we have. You know what I
They'll
mean?
always, yeah.
If
And
it
a
was
lot of
up to
people,
me,
they fail to like see the nuance of the situation too. And
right,
it's, I
right.
can't.
And if it was up to me, I'd be writing in Bernie when I went to go
Yeah,
vote. You know what I
me too.
mean? But that's not
That broke
a
everybody's hearts.
logical, you know. So and I did vote for Kamala. I went and early voted last Saturday,
Good.
and you know what I mean. So I 100% agree with you. Um, what what do you think? One thing, and I know we didn't necessarily talk about this before, but it just kind of popped in my head,
Go
and
ahead.
I feel you're a
Ask
good
away.
person.
I don't care.
What do you think the masculine, or the men that are on our side of thinking? What do you think we could do um, before maybe the worst happens? And what do you think? Because I have an idea, and I can't say it on here for legal reasons, but heaven forbid something happens and Cheeto Man gets in, right?
Yeah.
What do you think men who are not a supporter of him, where would we be best to help, right? And especially towards the women that are maybe going to get their rights taken away or not
Yeah.
be able to get
So
into.
basically, how can men like be a better advocate? I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
100%,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let me think about this. Well, obviously, deconstructing your misogyny.
Mhm.
Like we said, having these tough conversations, because honestly, I think the reason why we got to this point is like, honestly, I hate to say it, but also a lot of men and a lot of women have just been very quiet about their politics. They don't talk about it.
Mhm.
They don't want to get a
Yeah,
headache from it. But it's like,
right,
maybe you should understand. Maybe you should talk about this stuff. You should
right,
at least learn how to agree to disagree. Like, everything should not become like a big argument. Like,
right,
why would you want to be around somebody that you have to walk on eggshells anyhow? I don't know.
yeah, especially
But
marriage or anything like that, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, it's, if you think it's tense now, it's only gonna get tenser.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and it's like, it's just escalating, 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 and it's like, whenever you have like a big balloon, like, you have the power to like pop it, you know.
yeah.
So,
Right,
but honestly, just like listening to women, but also this involves like everybody, like
yeah,
any color, trans people, LGBT.
yeah.
Like, I think honestly, like, if you start looking at the paperwork, it's gonna make sense. Like,
Hmm.
so for instance, I was watching. I don't know if you've seen the clip of it. It's Jubilee. I don't really care about them, but this was very interesting. But
Okay.
Jubilee had Ben Shapiro versus like 20 college students, and so that's
The
circulating
the
around the internet.
the trans men that laid into
Yes,
him.
exactly.
Oh, that was
Oh,
great.
chef's kiss. That was exactly going to be my point. And
Yeah.
and he was smart with his argument, because he's like,
Oh
this
yeah.
affects me as well. And
Yeah.
so it's like, whenever people hear things that are like, I want to call them like buzzwords. So
Mhm.
it's like whenever they call like pro-life, or I'm sorry, like pro-choice is like murder or something. It's like, is it really?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
like, you have to look at the how that would actually work, and read the paperwork, and also like
Mhm.
understand like the logistics of it. It's like, and listen to women's stories, honestly. Like,
Oh
we've
yeah.
seen
Yeah.
so many stories why it can't work out. Like, you have, I saw something on my TikTok feed, and it was like a woman who, she was not even trying to do this, by the way. She couldn't help it. It's like
Mhm.
13, 14 weeks. She was like hemorrhaging or something. She
Yeah.
thought
I think I know what you're
yeah,
talking
she
about.
went to the hospital, and she was losing so much blood that like they could not give her a blood transfusion, because the baby still had a heartbeat. And
Right.
so it's like, these people are thinking that abortions are only being because like the women are lazy or something, and they
Yeah.
don't, they're like,
Or
oh, you, yeah.
want to
And
go
so,
back
but
out every Friday night and don't want to be bothered
yeah,
with
well,
yeah.
well, there's so many issues with that. Number one, it's
Yeah.
not rooted in compassion at all. Like, and so that's
No.
kind of like how I want to like operate in general. It's just like, trying to understand, like, why would somebody do this, because there's usually a reason for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so understanding like the nuances of like what could go wrong with that, so like informing yourself about that, so you're not the lawmaker who's like, oh, ectopic pregnancies are viable. um so
Yeah.
what else? Because honestly, I literally had an argument with a man. He had like 55K followers verified on Instagram, arguing
Mm.
about pro-life stuff with me. And he literally tried telling me an ectopic pregnancy, like I tried saying, hey, that's not safe anyhow. He was like, oh, well, try again. And I'm just like, what do you mean by that? That's
The try again isn't
inexcusable
going to
behavior.
happen.
If you're so pro-life that you want to exterminate women who
Yeah.
after that they can actually conceive again. The biggest thing everyone keeps talking about is it's all over the world is the birth rates going down. It's like, well, it's everywhere. So there's a
Yeah.
big list of things that you do to make your outcome more likely. And whenever you don't see people doing all of that, and they're claiming to be doing that,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, if the birth rate's so low, why would you try to get rid of IVF? Why would you try, like, it's
Right.
not making sense. So
Yeah.
they want nuclear families, and they want their Christian families. And so,
Right.
but because I have family who, because you said you're Hindu, I believe.
Hmm.
My brother-in-law, he's Canadian Indian, so he came
Okay.
here and he married my sister Linda. I've been into Indian weddings, and the food was amazing.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they speak Gujarati.
Okay.
That yeah. So, but it's just been cool because like meeting his family, and they have like Muslim and Hindu
Hmm.
family, and just realizing like the world doesn't revolve around Christianity. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
it's just because we were brought up in the U.S. Given our context, this is a Christian nation, but it's like they're trying to make it
Yeah.
that. But
Right.
I
And
I just
that's what they're wanting to do. Like I
mm-hmm,
don't know if we can really talk too much about it, but
yeah.
their whole little plan thing, um, that they leaked on the internet for
Project
whatever dumb reason.
2025.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, it's it's what they've been wanting to do, and it's what
Mm-hmm.
they over time have slowly been
It's
doing.
for years, and then you still have
Yeah.
people like, "Oh, I'm in denial." They're not doing that. It's like,
They
oh my
said they are.
god,
Yeah.
yes,
They flat
it's
out
like
said
right
they
in
are.
front of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to me,
So
it's like my family's always, because going back to the whole grandparents thing. It's like they
mm,
weren't going to leave us alone anyhow. So that's why I'm loud and outspoken about it anyhow. Because like if this all goes down, like I'm South Italian, and so there's like actually like Arabic influence there, and I
right.
joke, my father kind of looks more Arabic, and so then
Mhm.
my mother looks more white, and so
Yeah.
um I look I take after my father. A
Right.
lot of people, they're like they call me Jewish, and there's nothing wrong with being Jewish, but they do it to be one derogatory most of the time,
Mhm.
because they're making digs at how I look. And so like that's
Yeah.
not very cool whenever we're on the verge of whatever is about to happen, you know.
Yeah. Right.
So uh, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me feel hate crimed a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah.
Um yeah, and just realizing I grew up also not feeling good because
Mhm.
of mostly it was blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls that got like the preference or got treated.
Yeah.
So there was like colorism going on in as I grew up, and I didn't make sense of
Oh,
it
yeah.
because in my head I'm like, oh, I'm a white woman because like we recently got
Right.
allowed to be that, I guess. Um, so yeah, but it really honestly depends who you ask. I just also
Yeah.
race can be like a construct. I mean, I've seen women who are like half and half, and they have blonde hair, blue eyes, and they could pass as more white than
Mhm.
me. So it's like,
Mhm.
and that's crazy because like I've been scrolling on TikTok and seeing a blonde haired, blue eyed Muslim woman, and I thought,
Mhm.
with my small mind, I'm like, wait a second, you can't be that. Because yeah, so it's just like realizing like, oh my god, I still have so much to learn, and just
Yeah.
that's it. Like who,
Um,
and even if you do accidentally like say something ignorant, like just be like, oops, that was my bad, guys, I'm sorry. And like most
yeah.
people around you, like if they see you being like kind and they know that that's actually you, they're gonna like extend that grace to you. And I think that's
Of
important,
course.
is to also extending grace to each other, because I think we need it more now than ever, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's when they first released their little plan thing, um so I am white presenting, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the majority of my bloodline is indigenous. So there
Hmm.
is Shawnee, Cherokee, and a little bit of Choctaw.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That's
and
so
then
cool, though.
Irish and some other things. On top of, I am also a member of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, me
On
too.
top of,
Pam.
my family, my partner, my kids, so all of everything I hold dear is in their little plan to one way or another get rid of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like we were kind of talking about before we got on, it might start with, we just don't want the women to do this, right?
Yes.
But clearly,
Exactly.
the other night, we can now see that it's not just that. With their little
Nope.
comment about Puerto
It's
Rico.
men. It's
Yeah,
men too, but they're so blind to see it because men are like, "Oh, I'm the patriarch. This is set up for me.
yeah, yeah,
It's set up for the rich and the billionaires, not you."
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not set up if you're arguing about these concepts, or if you're involved in what is going to happen because of these concepts, it's not about you. You know what I mean?
No, like I not to they are kind of like getting men already, especially in like these more conservative states. They got rid of the Halloween website.
Oh,
The orange and the black. Like they like I think they like banned it or they can't have like access to it. So
oh
like
yeah,
guys are
that's yeah.
they,
I heard
they
about
can't
that.
they can't even go and so it's
Yeah,
like okay, if it's not that, it's gonna be video games and like it's gonna be all these
it's
other stupid
it's funny
things
that
and
they got rid of that one, but yet Grinder is still available up there.
that's hilarious. Hmm.
Did you ever hear the statistic from the Republican convention, how Grinder ended up crashing because it had 95% more
They're oh my god, they're so closeted. I
membership?
can't stand.
I thought that tickled me pink. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and honestly though, like when I was younger, because we always unpack that stuff, and
Mhm.
I also just growing up in the 2000s, we were always like, oh, that's gay. So
Yeah.
like just our millennial language, like, and we thought growing up that was normal and that was cool, only to get
Yeah. Oh
older
yeah.
and realize,
Everybody's.
oh, wait a second,
Oh yeah.
this word's never been cool, like
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kind of with that being said, so what are your thoughts about? So on the side, we talked a little bit about the not good future, and I kind of believe that both exist in a similar plane of reality. We just haven't seen which one we're going to hit yet. Um, what are your hopes, say, that Kamala does get elected? In my opinion, I really think she's going to. And
I'm praying to God. I'm trying not to jinx it, but like I really, really want her to win. And so
yeah,
I don't know because
okay,
like I said, it's crazy to me like the evidence. Like we I don't even know what all I can say either. You can edit or whatever. But
yeah. I'm
just
not
seeing the
monetized,
Russian.
so that,
Oh, okay. But like seeing the Russian, they were found to collude with us in 2016, and the
Mhm.
only difference is like it was fine because Donald Trump got exactly what he wanted. But
Right.
then like this the second time around, he's telling everybody to stop the count, and it's like, why are you telling everybody to stop? And
Yeah.
not only that, but it's like all these other things that are very like right in our face, and people are still like in denial about it because
Yeah.
that's their guy. And
Yeah.
also, I like to talk to people about. I brought up the story of like fighting fire with fire. So
Mhm.
in this case, like if a Christian has like if I find that they're idolizing Trump too much, I'll be like, what are you doing? Because there's a lot of that
Yeah.
going on. It's like, why are
Oh
you
yeah.
treating him like he is Jesus? Like And I'm
Yeah,
serious. There's so many people treating him like that.
they are. They
And
are.
and, and then I remind them of the story of the golden calf, which
Hmm.
talks about like making
Yeah,
false idols, and I can't believe these people claim to read this book, but I don't. First of all, they don't understand it. They're
yeah.
not showing that they do understand it. That's why I feel like they're fake most of the time, and so
Oh yeah.
like
I
that's
mean,
annoying.
there is a so in
Kenneth
the
Copeland.
religious. Oh God, that man's a demon. I don't
Yes,
even
that's
believe in
your.
demons.
Listen,
That man's a
listen.
demon.
You are the third person who has said that. I said that. My boyfriend has said that. You are the third.
Yeah.
3 times
Yeah.
confirms that we could see it in his eyes. He's a scary man.
I
I
was just
cannot.
about to say there in for people who don't know who he is, he's a
Even
preacher.
reading that comment section, everyone's saying the same thing. They're like, "That's what
Oh
evil
yeah,
looks like."
it does. You can see it,
Mm-hmm.
and I trust me. In my religious life, I've seen actual true evil, and I've looked
Yes.
at it in the eye, and that
Mm-hmm.
is the same exact look of I am right, you are
Mm-hmm.
wrong, and I will burn you to the ground to prove my point. You know
And the
what I
funny
mean?
thing is, a lot of people said that they don't even like Kenneth Copeland, and he was actually the deciding factor. Like some people were literally filling their ballots out, and then they saw that Kenneth Copeland, and they were like, "Oops, just kidding."
Yep.
Like
Well,
that's how bad it is, dude.
there's the other pastor. I don't think I know his name, from Tennessee, who man, what's his name? He's a younger guy, but
Mm.
he's one of their advisors too. And I was going to say that in the religious spiritual community, right, there is a very big movement right now of people who have been like us, grew up in Christianity, have been
Deconstructing.
indoctrinated. Yes, there is a very big movement at the moment to take the actual values of being a follower of Christ, right,
Mm-hmm.
and applying them to what you want to call yourself as a Christian, right? And honestly, a lot of the values that really were from Christ are values that are found in the Hindu religions, in the Buddhist
It's
religion.
all overlapping.
It
All these
is.
stories.
It is.
I need to take a world history class because like
Yeah.
this is weighing
Well,
heavily
and
on my mind. But yeah.
at some other time, you and me can chat about it. But I've delved so much into the similarities of the religions, to a point where I've seen a religion that is. Oh, I love that book. I read it online, but I love that book.
Yeah, Dictionary of
But
World Myths.
yeah, and honestly, there I see a day when we as humanity will be able to figure out what all of these lessons and stories have really been trying to tell us, and that will be what we follow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll drop all
Yeah,
the dogma and all that. Because
I hope so.
in my opinion, that dogma is what's leading to Trump supporters and
Yeah,
their whole idea of what they think they want for America to be.
I just can't believe it. Like we got people that genuinely are using Christianity and religion to manipulate people, and it's so
Yeah.
sad when you try to call it out in front of everyone and you're the crazy one. Like we are just so beyond gone
When
sometimes. Like
it's
in that way, I do get
they
scared, you know.
they even talk about it in the Bible that there will be
Hmm.
those people that do that, and
Yeah,
they will be quoting that exact scripture while
it's all the
doing
same.
that exact thing.
I just can't. It's like why, like we're nitpicking about things whenever it's like, oh, the Bible says you can't eat like certain shellfish or you can't wear certain
Right.
linens or something, and we're over here
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the gay people. It's like, are
Yeah.
you sure?
Yeah. They'll get knocked on the head eventually, and hopefully
I
figure it
I
out.
I just hope not. My boyfriend, he's former Air Force, and he
Yeah.
honestly, I think a lot of what changed his mind, um, and out of respect for him, I'll keep some of his details confidential. I don't think he wants
Of
that
course.
all out there.
Of course.
But he was in the 2 tours in Iraq, and then he
Mhm.
obviously sacrificed for this country, and then coming back here, and then all this happening, and in his mind, it's like we used to, supposedly, we used to dislike Nazis.
Right.
and as a country, and now it's like, and he was actually like fighting people, so that's
Yeah.
why he has like actual PTSD. Like he went to war with.
Combat. Right.
Yes, exactly. He
Right.
was on the front lines.
Right.
And so, that still haunts him every day.
Hmm.
And I think like he while he was doing that, he was also in a position to like recognize like he actually does have like patriotism for his country.
Yeah.
And like it takes a lot to actually to do that and to fight and to put yourself at risk like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
so whenever you see your own country doing things that are like questionable, and I think that's also kind of what started him, because in his mind, like with that military training, he was
Mhm.
taught to see what like to point out the red flags. So, and it
Right.
doesn't matter
Right.
where it's coming from. Like
Yeah.
if you
The
call
red
yourself,
flags are the red flags. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like a red flag is going to be a red flag
Yeah.
essentially. And so I think that his ability to like recognize those patterns is also what like led to him like deconstructing and switching
Mhm.
from conservative to more progressive. And
Yeah.
I'm proud of him. And but also just if he's like kind of centered on like homeland security in a way, then he's also like questioning things like, oh crap, like what's going to happen. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but
I
he
mean,
he
I
literally, because of, I'm so sorry, I'm almost done.
no, you're good.
Um,
You're good.
but he like literally with his um ability to recognize patterns, because you kind of do have to sort of stay one step ahead whenever you're like fighting
Hmm.
people like war tactics and combat. He
Hmm.
predicted January 6th, and honestly I think a lot of us did, because we
Oh yeah.
saw the signs
I,
and we're seeing them again. And
yeah.
if the guy didn't sign the paperwork that saying he's going to have a peaceful transfer of power, under would a normal person be allowed to do that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he's already, just like before, he's already starting in with the, well,
it's
it may
rigged,
not
it's
be.
fake,
Yeah.
oh they're
Yeah. Yeah.
lying.
Yeah. So he's going to do it again.
Yep.
And this time he may go more violent. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean,
And
like
we where
we
we
literally
lost.
had Mike Pence before, and he
Yeah.
was the dude who certified the. I think the hopefully the good news is I'm praying that we don't have to have Mike Johnson do all that stuff, but I
Yeah.
believe that they should be certified by then, God willing. Like I'm just
Yeah.
really glad.
Typically, the Congress is either anywhere from 2 to 4 days, I believe, before the inauguration for the president. Um, and yes, just hopefully it's not him. 'Cause
I just I don't I can't. It's crazy, but also
yeah,
it's just like that. I think the next 7 days is what is going to see what we're looking at in January.
yeah,
Because sometimes what if we don't even have to wait till January, dude? Like, what if
right,
we don't
yeah,
know until
yeah,
it happens? I guess so. We're all
yeah,
just like, and I think that's also part of like why the past 3 4 years have felt like we've been in some weird limbo. Like I don't know if it's just me, but it
yeah.
feels like we're in a. I made a video the other day saying like I feel like we've been in an alternate reality. Like everything stopped whenever the pandemic happened, and that's
Oh
whenever
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that was intentional.
yeah,
That was whenever the fear actually started, and that's whenever I realized like he was not good at handling things, is because
yeah,
like you're denying COVID.
yeah.
And it's like the rest of the world is not denying COVID. Like, what are you talking about?
And verbatim asking at a podium, what if we
Yeah.
were to put disinfectant? Like, really, dude? Like,
It's just
I know
very
that things
stupid.
might
It's
go
like,
through your head, but
yeah.
yeah,
I think honestly, like, I don't agree with Kamala Harris, but even like on a psychology level, and I've said that she is very well spoken and she actually makes sense.
yeah,
And there's still people that are like, oh, what are you talking about? It's like, and these are not, I don't want to say they're unintelligent people, but usually the people that say that, like, I can, like, argue circles around, kind of, sort of. Like,
yeah,
so, I don't
yeah,
know. It's just,
yeah.
it's
I
crazy.
mean, hopefully, like you said, whatever happens, I know the next 7 days are going to be very big indicator of what may happen, but hopefully everything, works out. I know that I have a group of people that over the next 7 days are going to be doing series of meditations to try to help
Yeah.
raise vibrationally the situation. So we'll see. Maybe that'll,
I
We're
hope.
helping our own little ways.
In a weird way, it's also kind of like whenever you've been used to the desensitization of like unprecedented times all the time, it's like
Yeah.
just bring it on. Like what's
Oh yeah.
next? Like
At this
I
point.
don't care.
Yeah. At
Like
this point.
before, like my mental health was kind of bad before the pandemic, and then like it
Mm.
kind of actually made me stop and like deal with it. And in a weird way, I think I came out stronger because of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know I did too. So, and I think there's quite a few people that feel that same, you
That's
know.
where it started content creation because I was home
Yeah.
bored and I needed to make money and
Yeah.
that I so
I
that's how I
started
started
it
doing it.
for community to make friends, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and I got some.
Yeah, I know, I do too, and like I that's the biggest takeaway is like I have friends who like we're best friends, we're close and stuff, but also just like I love talking to my internet people because like we just get
Yeah.
each other. And
Oh yeah.
I also I wish I could stress it to my best friends how much I want them to do content creation because like I said
Mhm.
they feel lonely too, and it's like but that's why I want to push them to do it because I want them to find their people as well. I want them to gain confidence from like
Mhm.
speaking. It's the good and the bad. Like, yes, you are going to be judged, but also, like, you're going to be judged no matter what. So you may as well, like, just be yourself and like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I do this because I want to make a positive difference. Also, I just come from like a artsy family. Like, my father, even growing up, like, I watched him do like festivals. So he did like Italian
Mhm.
festivals, like just performing and singing. He played piano, harmonica,
Oh, wow.
accordion. He like polka music. So like on
Yeah.
Sundays, I would be in the radio station with him locally. He'd put on like a little Italian station every Sunday, and so that was cool. And just locally just being involved in that stuff and.
Mhm.
So like in our county, he knows like basically everybody. I joke, I'm like he's a small town celebrity, but no, like and also just like his siblings, they're also very musical as well, and he was
Right.
always one of the first and only people to actually tell me like you can do whatever you set your mind to, and you can be an
Mhm.
artist and you can make it, and that's because out of everybody in my family, my dad's the most business savvy, and so
Mhm.
he before he came to America, he was actually like he had a successful construction company. Well, the guy he was working with wanted to become his partner, but that
Mhm.
didn't happen. He ended up coming here instead. But like the
Yeah.
point being that like if you give yourself a couple years, you can be there. And that's the thing. I'm only in like my first year of like content creation.
Mhm.
Like I said, it was like a past month or two. I really feel like I've leveled up, but also just figuring out what I want and you don't know what you're going to do with your
Yeah.
platform until like
Yeah.
you get at it and the pieces come
Yeah.
together over time unfortunately, and that's what I'm finding out. It's like sometimes I
Oh,
wish I
yeah.
was further ahead. I'm like, oh, I wish I had a podcast, I wish I had XYZ, I wish time. It's all going to happen
Yeah.
in time, so
Yeah.
just calm down.
Yeah. And that's honestly, I mean, that's the same for me too, is my content creation has really only been like I've had the podcast for a couple of years now,
Mm-hmm.
but doing it has only been about a year now. And
Mm-hmm.
I've already seen enough fruit from it to where it's what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
that's if anybody's listening, you can do it. You know what I mean? It may seem silly and it may be a little nerve wracking sometimes, and you may want to throw your computer out the window because of the algorithm. But like she said,
Yeah.
don't.
Like honestly, and plus like especially because of I mean the whole celebrity culture now, like
Yeah.
the whole Diddy case and stuff. We're all realizing that maybe like being a celebrity isn't all it's cracked up to be, you know.
Right. Right.
So that's where I'm at. It's like I wouldn't mind it obviously, but also I'd prefer authenticity, and I just like I said, I want to find my people. I want to express
Mhm.
myself. So I've always kind of been an indie kid in that sense. And plus, like everything I stand for is like not mainstream. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes it
Yeah.
easy for me
Makes sense.
to be indie from the
Yeah.
go. So I
Yeah.
think that is the easy part for me. It's like, and then that way I get to actually say whatever I want, and I don't have to be like their puppet. So
Yeah. That's one big thing I'm trying with the podcast is my ideas, the guests' ideas, and one reason I haven't really looked for sponsors is because of that. I don't want to have to push, penis enlarging pills and this and that
Yeah.
just to make $1. You know what I mean? So
Not worth it.
nah, not at
Also,
all.
it kind of it reflects your integrity too, like what you end up
Yeah,
doing. And if it
yeah,
doesn't align with you, like why would you do that? So,
yep, yep, for sure. Well, I really enjoyed having you on.
me
Would
too.
you mind telling the audience where they can connect with you, your socials, which we'll also put in the description of the video?
Yeah. I have like a billion TikTok accounts, but my main one is at Daria Rizzelli. So Daria, and then there's underscore Rizzelli. And then I also have one, my backup, it's at Daria Rizzelli. There's no underscore. Those are the two main ones. I'm sure if you interact with my stuff, you'll
Everyone.
stumble
Yeah.
upon. I'm in a weird transition period where like I have to like fix my link tree and stuff, and but like also that tied into what I was doing before and seeing what works and what I'm getting money from, and I'm shifting my focus. Like I was doing like maybe 4 or 5 subscription services. That's a lot. I just want to focus on like
Yeah,
1 or 2 and do them really good. I'm doing quality over quantity now, and that's the
for sure.
difference. Before, like but I didn't realize that whenever I first started this, and it's just like I'm learning too as I
Yeah,
go on. So but I believe my Instagram is also the same name. We'll link it, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like I said,
I love content creation.
I'll put it down in the description in the
Thank you.
bottom down there, people. All right. Well, thank you again so much for being on. Really
Oh,
enjoyed
I appreciate it. I
chatting.
had such a good time. Seriously.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you again so much. And
I
from the
appreciate
Hanuman,
you.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Hello, family. This is Jaitra Das from the Hanuman Healing Hour. I wanted to come on and thank you for tuning in to this episode and tuning into all the episodes that you do. Your support has greatly kept me going. Just knowing that there are people that enjoy the content and enjoy the interviews makes me so happy. I do want to also announce that we are going to do 2 giveaways. The first is going to be a sticker giveaway. So a sticker and a bumper sticker from Baba's Feed Project. And then the next giveaway is going to be for the top contributor. So anyone who has the most comments or is selected from the comments, that is where we will pick them from. We will be giving away a beautiful little Om necklace, also from Baba's Feed Project. And again, I just want to thank you so much for being supportive and tuning in. Namaste.